I bet you didn't know that depression does not just affect the person that's depressed, but it also affects family and friendships. Welcome back to the YouTube page, What Are You Thinking 97. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who may need it. Today, I'll be sharing with you some of my story on how my depression affected my family and my friendships. When I was depressed, I became isolated. I isolated and I became withdrawn. So I stopped communicating with my family and my friends. And this had an immediate impact on my parents. At the time, I had graduated from undergrad and I had came home from college. And I was working as a police officer at the time, and I was depressed. I stopped talking. Even at work, I would talk a little bit, just enough to get the job done. And so when my parents realized what was going on, they asked me, my mom did, like, what's going on? Did something happen at work? What's going on? What's happening? And I just would not communicate. So much so that my parents were really concerned and suggested that I go to therapy, and I did. And so a breakdown in communication in the household was really rough on my parents. And one day I will interview my parents for them to tell you specifically how it impacted them. But I know it caused an emotional strain because I was not my normal, fun, loving, laughing self. The second way is I stopped all communication. When I isolated and stayed to myself, I wasn't talking to anybody. And not just was I not talking to my parents, I wasn't talking to any friends. I just stopped talking. And the reason that I stopped talking is because I felt like nobody really wanted to hear anything I had to say. I was bombarded with thoughts of hopelessness and thoughts that I was unworthy. So I just didn't have much to say to anybody. And it also affected my family, even outside of the home, because we would get together all the time for family dinners, and it could just be any day. We would get together and just hang out. And I stopped going to family outings. People would be having parties and cookouts and this and that, and I wouldn't go. My parents would go. I stopped going. And so this affected my relationships. And some of my family took it to mean like, they interpreted my behavior as I didn't want to be bothered with them, or I was acting funny, when really internally, I was depressed and I was going through, and they had no idea, but they took it to mean, like I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And that was far from the truth. And so, and of course, I did not know that people felt this way until years later, when you have those conversations. But at the time, I did not know that they felt this way. And they did not know what I was going through internally. They had no idea. And so I just wanted to share for a few minutes with you and let you know that if you are a person that is suffering with depression, it does not just impact you. It impacts your spouse, your significant other. It affects your children. It affects your parents, your other family members, and it affects your friendships. And so if you or someone is suffering with depression and you have no idea of what to do or where to get help, you can start by Googling how to find a licensed therapist or how to find a licensed psychiatrist. And this will help you on your journey. Now, I'm going to tell you, it took me a long time to find a therapist that I could identify with. And by this, I mean somebody who looks like me, who understands me, because my situation is not like everyone else's. And so early on in my therapy, I had Caucasian therapists. And there's nothing wrong with Caucasian therapists. But for me, they could not identify with me in my blackness. They could not. And so I started with Caucasian therapists, and I actually had one therapist that was phenomenal. But at some point, I wanted a African American therapist. I had one Caucasian therapist, and she was phenomenal. But the others that I had, they could not really identify me, nor did they understand me. And I was young. At the time, I was a cop. I was young and full of myself, and spoiled rotten. And I thought the world revolved around me. And so they could not identify at all with me. So I opted to find a therapist that looked like me. But each person will have to find somebody. It doesn't matter the skin color. If they can help you get the help that you need, it really does not matter. That was just my preference. But you will have to do what's best for you. It doesn't matter as long as you are getting the help that you need. That is the most important thing. So I encourage you, if you know somebody or if it's you, encourage them to go to therapy. Help them find a therapist. And it may take a while to find one that you really feel like is helping you. But it's all a part of the journey to becoming whole and to becoming healed. This is Ty of the YouTube page. What are you thinking 97? And I pray this video encourages you, uplifts you. I pray that it educates you. I pray that it helps somebody. That is my earnest plea. I just want to help somebody. That's it. Have a blessed day.